The Utah Jazz may have to trade either Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert because Spider Mitchell just can't let it go, according to a brand new report. Rudy Gobert was the first NBA player to be diagnosed. He shut down the whole league, and it seems like the whole country after that. Then this clip came out, and a whole new controversy spread. Gobert was being reckless. And he was just as bad behind the scenes in the locker room with his teammates. The next player to be diagnosed was Donovan Mitchell, and a report came out soon after that he was really upset at Gobert. A brand new article says, quote, their relationship doesn't appear salvageable. That means the Jazz may have to pick the dominant defensive center or the talented up-and-coming guard. In this video, we'll talk about which one they should pick and cook up some trade scenarios for both. Hey guys, it's Casey Kiernan, host of the AM Hoops YouTube channel. We're waiting for our games to come back, but in the meantime, still coming out with 5 videos per week. Hit subscribe and hit notification bells too. It really helps out the channel. Let's get one thing straight. We don't know who was infected first, and that's what the team keeps telling Donovan Mitchell. That report that just came out says the Jazz are telling Donovan Mitchell, we don't know who gave it to who. That still isn't an excuse though for how immature he was acting before this whole thing blew up. It's actually kind of a shock that Mitchell's still this mad because it looked like he was cooling off when he spoke with Good Morning America not too long ago.
To be honest with you, Robin, it took a while, for me to kind of cool off, and I read what he said and I heard what he said. So, I'm glad he's doing okay. I'm glad I'm doing well. I'm just really happy, to be honest, Robin, that it's just, I hate to say there's 2 of us, but like it wasn't the whole party.
But it looks now like he was just saying that for the cameras and didn't want to create a scene. Look, before we jump into who they should keep, we have to acknowledge that this doesn't mean that they will or should break up the Jazz. In fact, after this new article came out, Joe Ingles sent out a tweet that just said, lol. Obviously referencing the article. He's tweeted since then, laughing at the controversy. In the article itself, he says this, quote, I'm confident our team is going to be totally fine. I heard Donovan's response or whatever it was to that question, and a part of this is on Donovan and Rudy to sort out if he's frustrated with him or whatever. But I have no doubt that when we get back to training or when our season starts again, our team is going to be what we have been and what we are. So listen, for my Jazz fans out there, I'm not being irresponsible. I know you think this is overblown. I am including the Joe Ingles tweet, and he thinks that this thing will blow over. I'm a believer, though, that where there's smoke, there is fire, and maybe if not this season, a trade could be necessary in the future. So which guy should they choose? Okay, well, I would trade Donovan Mitchell and keep Rudy Gobert. I know some of you think that's crazy, but not Jazz fans. Both guys have high trade value, and the contract situation is interesting. Gobert, a free agent after next year. Mitchell has a qualifying offer after next year, so whoever trades for either guy is gonna have to pay big time soon. But assuming no one else on the team is mad at Rudy Gobert, they should keep him and trade Mitchell. Number one, while Donovan Mitchell's really good, there's no way to replace what Gobert does for this team. On the flip side, they have really talented guards on the Jazz, especially with Mike Conley now in the fold. Number two, there's no way to get equal trade value for Rudy Gobert. The Jazz would almost definitely lose a trade there. A lot of what he does is not measured on the box score. This guy is a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, a 2-time All-NBA center. He is much more valuable to the Jazz right now. An equal trade for Gobert would be something like a Nikola Jokic type player, but I'm not even sure they'd get back Kemba Walker. Instead, Donovan Mitchell would bring back a haul. He's got 1 more year on a team-friendly contract, just 23 years old, and was an all-star for the first time this season. He shoots well from 3 and from 2, creates his own shots and for others. One drawback here is his size. Spider Mitchell is a 6'1" 2 guard. That means a small backcourt, which could be a problem defensively. Gobert's value is unique. We already talked about his All-NBA and defensive accolades. He He is, though, the best interior defender in the game, averaging about 15 points, 14 boards, and 2 blocks per game on 70% shooting before the NBA season was suspended. Gobert's limitations, we all know. He is not a modern center in any sense of the word. He can get completely played out of a playoff series if he's got the wrong matchup. He doesn't shoot the three. In fact, he's only tried 3 shots this year outside of 10 feet. So, while we're on the Frenchman, let's dig into these trades and start with Rudy Gobert. The Celtics get Gobert and Ed Davis. The Jazz get Gordon Hayward back, Robert Williams, 2020 first-round pick from Memphis, and the Celtics 2021 first. The C's solved their center problem with this move, and it's a homecoming for Gordon Hayward, who has failed for the most part in Boston, a lot of that not his fault. The Celtics need to upgrade at the 5 to be a championship contender. Currently, they rely on Daniel Tice, Enes Kanter, and Robert Williams. The Jazz do this, and they get Williams back, who is a cost-controlled big man who can be their center for the future. Gordon Hayward will need to be paid soon, and he's 30 years old. The Celtics picks, though, make the trade worth it for the Jazz, but they're not too much to pay for the C's. At one point, that Memphis pick looked really valuable. Now it might be outside the lottery. The New York Knicks get Gobert, the Jazz get Mitchell Robinson, Bobby Portis, Taj Gibson, and the Knicks 2020 first. This is a win-win trade, really. The Jazz get back Mitchell Robinson, a younger, more cost-controlled version of Gobert in many ways. Both provide great interior defense, but they're old-school centers. The Knicks trade away Mitchell Robinson, and I know it hurts, but the bottom line is, Knicks fans, you're not a small market team. You don't want the Gobert of the future. You want the Gobert now. Stars want to play with other stars, and getting Rudy Gobert could attract maybe a Chris Paul or a Giannis Antetokounmpo if he becomes a free agent. The first round pick will be top 10, maybe even top 3. So for the Jazz, they get a good young replacement for Gobert and a valuable first round draft pick. The Chicago Bulls get Rudy Gobert, the Jazz get Otto Porter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, and the Bulls 2020 first. This is the best deal the Jazz are going to get for Gobert. 2 valuable young players and a high lottery pick. Now, of course, the caveat for both OPJ and Lauri is health. Porter Jr. played in 14 games this year. Markkanen has been injury prone his whole career, but at their best, both are franchise building blocks. Porter's a two-way player, a talented passer, and a good three-point shooter. Markkanen is a 7-footer with range who may want out of Chicago anyway and be happy to be a Jazz player. In Utah, Markkanen would open things up for their guards to drive, but he can still hold his own in the paint, finishing 65% of his shots at the rim his first 3 years. Yes, Lauri has slumped big time this year, and so for all the risk Utah is taking, it comes with that first round pick, which could be as high as number 1. Now, our first trade for Donovan Mitchell sees Spida going to the Heat. The Jazz get back Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, the Heat's 2020 and 2025 first-round picks. Now, I don't know who is more mad at me, Heat fans or Jazz fans, for suggesting this trade, but Jazz fans, if you have not seen Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn this year, you're missing 2 of the most talented young players in the NBA. Kendrick Nunn is 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting behind John Morant and Zion Williamson. Duncan Robinson shoots like a taller JJ Redick. One issue here is that Nunn does not fix the fact that the Jazz have a small backcourt at just 6'2", but both players are cost controlled and the Heat are trading 2 first-round picks as well. The Heat get back another All-Star. That is 3 on their team with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. Their backcourt would be just fine. Jimmy Buckets is 6'7". This move would put the Heat at least second favorites to win the East behind Milwaukee. The Denver Nuggets trade for Donovan Mitchell in exchange for Michael Porter Jr., 2020 and a 2022 first-round pick. I actually saw Andy Bailey suggest this trade, and I loved it. Imagine Michael Porter Jr. on the Jazz. He would finally get the opportunity he deserves, not buried on the bench getting 1 start all season. He can space the floor. That makes him a good fit next to Rudy Gobert, and he can play make too. Yes, the injury is always a concern, but he was healthy this season. The only issue is Donovan Mitchell's size in Denver. The Nuggets would have a small backcourt with Jamal Murray at 6'4", but they are getting back an all-star talent. The Milwaukee Bucks trade for Donovan Mitchell, and the Jazz get back Dante DiVincenzo, Sterling Brown, and the 2020 first-round pick from Indy, plus the Bucks 2024 and 2026 firsts. This is the Bucks going all in to keep Giannis. They trade 3 first-round picks and an up-and-coming DiVincenzo to pair Giannis with a third all-star. Yes, that whole small backcourt problem exists in Milwaukee, but their defense more than covers up for that. With Mitchell, the Bucks become even bigger championship favorites, and they can secure a future dynasty with Giannis signing and Mitchell at just 23 years old. The Jazz get back a scrappy but talented shooting guard in Dante DiVincenzo and the Bucks' future with 3 first-round picks. Again, this may not happen, but we have to explore this because it is huge news with all this time passing and Donovan Mitchell still not forgiving Rudy Gobert. Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a daily NBA video.